What is this?
I think we're at the
Real
point
talk.
where we need to admit that this was never really a great franchise.
Nope.
There's one thing you should know about Sonic Unleashed before spending your hard-earned money on it. It's a big piece of garbage.
Well, good thing I got my tongue out. Sonic was never good. If you disagree, you can call the cops.
The reason is they all want to have sex with Big the Cat. That's true. That is still the reason.
The Sonic community is one of the most divided groups of people when it comes to deciding which game is the best that came out of this franchise, and it was ultimately decided on what each person has grown up with, right? The 90s kids still think Sonic 2 is the best Sonic game, only because that's all their parents could afford for the entertainment system at the time with the Sonic's Tuesday deal, a Genesis pack with Sonic 2 for $150. Some fans who bash anything that comes out today are the adventure fans who are still crying about Chow Garden and complain about how modern Sonic controls like a racing car. They genuinely think Roblox generic platformer controls are the ideal gameplay style for Sonic, but there is one particular era of Sonic that was ultimately criticized by almost everyone: the Dark Age. You know, the time where Shadow wields a gun and Sonic gets kissed by a human, turning into a werewolf and holding an anime sword. Who could forget about the Ford car transformation in Secret Rings? The term Dark Age for the Sonic community usually refers to the Sonic Mid-2000s Era, as this era was proclaimed to be the era where Sonic had turned into a laughingstock in front of the media and journalists due to the significant quality dump in games. They usually use the term quote-unquote age as it wasn't just a year, it was a whole period. It was told that Sonic never had a successful transition to 3D, and the Sonic games we got during this era are objectively bad from main titles to spin-offs. There were one or two games that ended up being beloved and recognized games in the franchise, but compared to everything else, it wasn't nearly enough to save Sonic's reputation at the time, and it doesn't help that these two games are exclusive on the DS. But revisiting multiple titles from this era, I've come to realize that these games weren't even half bad. Actually, this is why I made this video. I think there was a much worse period for Sonic, which I personally think it deserves the title of Dark Age more than any period. That era is no other than...
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
Enter the Meta Era, which started when they had renovations to the entire Sonic cast, except for Mike Pollock. Everyone loves Mike Pollock. And it started with free riders. What a great start to an era, right? The lowest scored Sonic game on multiple reviewer sites, and the nail in the coffin for my beloved Sonic Riders series. Rest in peace, the best mascot racing game. And the marketing scam that is known as Sonic the Hedgehog 4 had its first appearance in the same year as well. Pretty bad start for an era that had left people skeptical and unsure if they should keep buying games with the expectations of a decent game. But thankfully Colors and Generations had pretty damn good perception with good high scores from both fans and journalists, especially with Generations. People were thinking about how good that game. We thought Sonic Team had finally figured it out. They perfected the 3D formula for Sonic after all this time. And oh boy, we were on some strong copium. Generations came out in 2011 and is still considered one of the best 3D Sonic games, if not the best, and easily on people's top 5 at least. And you mean to tell me this is the last game we're going? Yes, this is probably the last great Sonic game that was officially developed by Sonic Team, as well, I mean, before Frontiers. And that was 11 years ago.
No, you said great. There must have been a good Sonic game, right? Right?
Well, if you want to be very technical, if you want to be meticulously technical, there was Sonic Runners, a mobile field gacha game that lasted for about a year. Sonic 4 Episode 2 was just borderline okay. Lost World was decent. Sonic and All-Star Racing Transformed was best second thing you could play if you wanted a Mario Kart on PC. We all know what happened with Sonic. Boom. Shadow Crystals and Fire Eyes are extremely mediocre, and that's when we finally got to 2017 with Sonic Mania. Great game by all means. And then Forces existed and put us right back to where we were. Team Sonic Racing is forgotten, and 3 years of nothing but rumors about Frontiers and 3 years with extreme drought, except for like if you want to count the movies. And here we are with Sonic Frontiers, which for most can be considered to be the messiah of this era. Or you're just one of those donkey. Yes, in the span of 11 years, since Generations, we only had one great Sonic game, and that is Sonic Mania. Everything I've mentioned was either subjectively just decent or a mere spin-off title that wasn't enough to fulfill our hunger for a good main title Sonic game. I suppose for the actual quote-unquote Dark Age, Light of Games had, I would say, people who grew up with the Dark Age were spoiled compared to us. I am talking for each year, at least we had a banger during that era, whether it was Rush or Riders, Rush Adventures, Unleashed, Zero Gravity. Heck, I have a guilty pleasure towards Black Knight. Had really good character writing, something we lacked so much during the meta era. It was so bad for us that we completely moved on from whatever they were cooking for us with Sonic Boom and distracted ourselves with, I don't know, like Blitz Sonic and fan games and generation mods. SRB2 dropped its biggest update during that era too. If it wasn't for this community, I don't know what might have happened to us who couldn't bear with all the disappointment. Sage and the Sonic hacking contest really carried this franchise during those harsh times for me, and without them, I could probably safely say I would have moved on from this franchise once and forever.
I'm here, reaching